So here's my first rule. Find your vision. Find your vision and follow it. Now, I think it is extremely important that you have a vision of where you go, that you have a goal, that you find your passion, because otherwise you're floating around all over the place and you never will end up anywhere. I mean, you can have literally the best ship in the world. You can have the best, the most modern cruise liner. But if the captain does not know where to go, that ship is going to drift around in the ocean and never will end up anywhere. And this is why it is so important to have a vision. And I created my vision in Austria. I was born right after the Second World War, and there was a depression, there was famine, starvation, no food around or anything, no economic activities. Austria just lost the war with Germany. Everyone was pissed off that they lost the war. There was alcoholism around. It was terrible, and it was kind of, the whole place felt small and constricted. I couldn't wait to get out of there. I couldn't wait to escape. I couldn't see myself working there in a factory. I couldn't see myself, working there as a farmer or anything. Or even, I couldn't even see myself going down the line of like what my father did, which was, he was a police officer. Even though my parents wanted me to have that kind of a life, for me to be a police officer and to marry a girl by the name of Heidi and to have a bunch of children and to run around like the Von Trapp family in The Sound of Music. But that was their vision, that was not my vision. And one day I remember I was in school and I watched a documentary about America and I found myself. I saw right away that this is the place where I want to be. This is the place where I want to end up. Because everything that I saw was so big, it was so fantastic. The huge skyscrapers, the monstrous bridges, the giant freeways filled with beautiful cars, the jetliners, the stars, the movie stars, the Muscle Beach, and all of those things. I just fell in love with America. So every time I saw a magazine after that, I read the magazine about America, I read the stories, I saw the pictures. Every time I saw an American movie, I watched that movie over and over. I couldn't wait to get to America. The question was just, how do I get to America? I mean, it was in Austria, I had no money or anything. And then one day was this magic day. I saw a magazine that showed me the path to America. It was a bodybuilding magazine. It was a bodybuilding magazine that had a huge, giant, muscular guy on the cover. His name was Reg Park. And he posed as Hercules, with a Hercules outfit, and he was just enormous looking, and the title said, Mr. Universe becomes Hercules star. So I read this article as fast as I could, learning about how he grew up poor in Leeds in England, and how he worked out 5 hours a day and became eventually Mr. Great Britain and then Mr. Universe. And then he landed in Rome, in Cinecittà, in the Hercules movies. And he made millions of dollars and took that money to buy himself a gymnasium chain down in South Africa and became a successful businessman. I read this and I became more and more certain about my own future. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and Reg Park had given me the blueprint to my life. I saw very clearly in front of me the whole vision. I saw it very clearly laid out. That I wanted to become another bodybuilding champion, just like Reg Park, standing up there on the stage, then to move to America, then to get into movies, then to become rich and famous. That was my goal. I had it laid out in front of me. There wasn't even a question about it. And I tell you, I was so happy to know where I was going. And that's why I said to you, it is so important to have a vision of where you're going. From that moment on, everything I did, no matter how hard I had to work, or how much I had to struggle, it was a joyride. It was fun. The simple truth is, if you don't have a vision, if you don't have a goal, or if you don't see your future laid out in front of you, you will just float around without any purpose. And I think that the numbers speak for themselves, because if you look around the world, how many people are unhappy with their jobs? Because they have no purpose, they have no vision, they don't know where they're going. In America, the latest study shows, the polls show, that 74% of the people would like to change jobs if they could. Think about that. That means that just 1/4 of the people in America are really happy with their life's work. I think that is very depressing. And I always was full of joy, and I was always happy. As a matter of fact, I remember in my pumping iron days, when I was working out in the gym, people asked me in the gym all the time, why are you smiling? Why are you always so happy when you're working out? I mean, you have to lift 50 tons of weights a day. You're working out 5 hours a day and you're always smiling and you have a great time. Look at the other bodybuilders, the other lifters, the other athletes. When you see them in the gym, they have a sour face and they are miserable that they have to work out. I said, but I always smiled because I knew that every rep that I did, every set that I did, every weight that I lifted was one step closer to that goal. I couldn't wait to do another 1,000 sit-ups. I couldn't wait to do another 500-pound squat. I couldn't wait to do the curls until my arms fell off. I couldn't wait because I knew that every time I worked out, I was getting closer and closer to the goal of standing up on that stage, surrounded by thousands of people screaming and me holding the trophy over my head. So this is what I saw, and this is why it was such a joy for me to work out. Because when I lifted, I didn't just lift the weights. I felt like each time I was lifting a trophy over my head. So it really was inspiring. I couldn't wait to get to the gym, so it was a whole different feeling. But I wasn't just in bodybuilding like that, the vision was so important. It was the same in show business. In show business, I remember the amount of times that I had to do dangerous stunts, and I had to struggle and do a lot of work and go through injuries and pain and all of those things and discomfort. But it didn't matter to me because I knew where I was going. I was always visualizing the finished film. I remember when I was doing Conan the Barbarian. There was this, there was this scene that we did where I was crawling on all four through rocks and gravel. And I was bare arm, bare legs, and I was doing 10 takes, crawling like 30 feet, the camera following me, and eventually my feet, my knees and my elbows started bleeding, and it started hurting more and more. And then after 10 takes, the director said to me sheepishly, says, do you mind, Arnold, to do one more take? I need one more close-up. I said, of course I don't mind. He says, yeah, but I know you're in pain, and I know you're bleeding. I feel uncomfortable saying that to you that you should do one more take. And I said, look, don't worry about that. We don't care about the bleeding or the pain. He says, because I see the finished scene. I see the finished scene of me crawling up behind this main villain, Thulsa Doom, that killed Conan's parents in the beginning of the movie. To crawl up behind him and to rise with the steel in the hand, with the sword in the hand, and cut his head off and get final revenge. I said, I can see the audience watching that and screaming and applauding. I said, that's what I'm interested in. We got to do take after take. It doesn't matter how many more takes it takes. I said, because pain is temporary. I said, but the movie is going to be permanent. And he was shocked that I said that. And I said to him, I said, because I have this clear vision. So again, it helped me with my vision. And I think this is why it is so important that you always have your vision. Find a vision, and the rest will follow. So this is rule number one. Rule number two is never think small. If you're going to accomplish anything, you have to think big and shoot for the stars. The biggest challenge most people have is that they think small. And the reason why people think small and they don't want to shoot for that big goal is because they're afraid of what? Of failure. You see, because if you shoot for a little goal, then you can't fail that much. But if you shoot for a big goal, then you can fail. But you never be afraid of failure. I never was afraid of failure because how far can you fall if you don't make it? Well, you can only fall down to the ground. That's not that far. But remember, it doesn't make you a failure or a loser when you fail. The only time you're a loser and a failure is if you don't get up. But if you get up, then you're a winner. And you know, no matter who it is in the world, and no matter how successful they are, everyone at one point has failed once, twice, and 10 times. I failed plenty of times. I don't care. I get up and then keep going. And this is why people choose small goals. But you got to shoot big. In German, we have a saying that says, wenn schon, denn schon. Which means, if you do something, then go all out, do it well. And I'm a big believer in that. I didn't just want to be a bodybuilding champion. I wanted to be the best bodybuilder of all times. Who wants to just be a champion? I want to be the best bodybuilder of all time. To have the most muscles, I wanted to win the most trophies, I wanted to win the most world championships, I wanted to have the most perfect body in the history of bodybuilding, and all of those crazy things. Why not shoot for the top? The same thing was also in movies. I didn't want to just be in movies. I want to be a leading man. I want to be a superstar, a movie star. I want to have above the title billing. I want to be the highest paid. I just basically wanted to be another John Wayne. What's wrong with that, right? So this was my goal. The same was when I went into politics. I didn't want to run just for city council. It didn't sound like Schwarzenegger city council. Doesn't sound right? Or Schwarzenegger mayor or Schwarzenegger state senator? No. Schwarzenegger governor. And not just governor, but governor of the greatest state in the United States, California. That is a whole different ballgame, right? Let me tell you something about, an example about thinking big. When I became governor of California, I wanted to rebuild California's ancient infrastructure because it drove me crazy that people got stuck in traffic and all this. America has been living off infrastructure that was built in the 50s and 60s. It was time that we improved it, to invest in new roads and in public transit, in schools and energy. The numbers of cars that we have now in America are 4 times as many as we had in the 60s, so therefore we have to have 4 times as many freeways and bridges and tunnels, but we don't. So in California it was time that we did something about that. Since I was the governor, I said we're going to change that. When I talked about infrastructure, I wanted to fix not just the roads, but I wanted to build massive freeways on top of freeways. And I wanted to get rid of the traffic jams. I wanted to build the first high-speed rail. I wanted to build bridges and tunnels, on-ramps and off-ramps. I wanted to see cranes everywhere. Well, let me tell you something. There's no excuse for Californians to be sitting in traffic jams. They're paying their taxes. And there's also no reason why they should send the kids to overcrowded schools and classrooms, or why we have a sewage system in Los Angeles that is 100 years old and the pipes are breaking all the time. So at first, of course, some of the legislators looked at me like I was absolutely insane. They said, oh, with this dramatic talk and then talking about the rebuilding and all this stuff, it worries me a little bit. And then they started not buying in on this big vision. I had the big vision, they had the small vision. I remember politicians have a hard time thinking big, of course, because a lot of them haven't traveled outside California. So they haven't really seen the big infrastructure all over the United States, or in Europe, or in Brazil, or in China, or in Korea, or here in Australia. They haven't seen that because they haven't been outside the state. And other politicians simply don't have the vision of the future past the next election, which is a problem we have all over the world with politicians, right? So it was my job as governor to create that big vision for them. So I took them to Los Angeles and showed them the overcrowded, classrooms, and I showed them the bumper-to-bumper traffic that we have. And I started pushing them, and I pumped them up enough that eventually they saw the big vision. And eventually Democrats and Republicans came together, and they're around that big vision, and we invested $60 billion to rebuild California, the biggest investment in our state in 50 years. We did the people's work and improved the state because we thought big and because people came together. So that is the important thing. Having a big vision, thinking big, shooting for the big goal, that is absolutely crucial. So remember that. Never think small, think big. My third rule is ignore the naysayers. It is natural that when you have a big vision and when you have big goals and big dreams, that people always are going to say, it can't be done. I mean, how many times have you heard that? Or no, or it's impossible. Well, let me tell you something. I think it's very important that to realize that you cannot let your dreams slow down because of those people. Take this out of your vocabulary completely. The word no, it's impossible, and it can't be done. I mean, in each of my careers, when someone said, it's impossible, I heard, it's possible. When someone said, it can't be done, I heard, it can be done. And when someone said no, I heard very loud and clear, yes. It was that simple. I always believed in what Nelson Mandela said. Nelson Mandela said, it always seems impossible until someone does it. And that's exactly right. So I wanted to be the one that does it. I was ready to break records and do something that no one else has ever done. Just think about how many times my career would have ended if I would have listened to the naysayers. I mean, it started right away when I was 15 years old. And I said, I want to be a bodybuilding champion. Imagine in Austria where they ski, and they do bicycle riding and swimming and track and field. And you say, I want to be a bodybuilding champion of the world. They said to me, are you stupid? This is an American sport. It can't be done. You can be maybe a ski champion or a bicycle racer or something like that, but not a bodybuilding champion. No way, it's impossible. The same thing I heard when I said I want to go to America. They said, you have no money, you're by yourself. You never will get to America. That's just a crazy dream, Arnold, relax. And then of course, when I wanted to get into show business, after I won 13 World Bodybuilding Championships, I wanted, like I said, to go exactly into what Reg Park did. You know, to become a movie star, to get into movies. So I met with Hollywood agents and with managers and with studio executives. And I told them that I want to be a leading man. Now, exactly, they laughed. They said, Arnold, oh Arnold, oh God, what are we going to do with you? I mean, first of all, look at your body. I mean, do you think that that body fits into any movie? I mean, Hercules movies were done 20 years ago. Look at this, you're so, you're a monster. Look at you. I mean, you don't fit into any movie. I mean, today, the guys are little. I mean, Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino, Woody Allen. Those are the new sex symbols, don't you get it? I mean, forget it, you're way past that. I mean, you would never make it. And plus, that accent of yours, I mean, it gives me the creeps, it gives me the chills when I hear you with that German bullshit there. I mean, Jesus. I mean, have you ever seen a star, a superstar, an international star that has a German accent? No, because in Hollywood and in America, they want to hear people talk like John Wayne, not like Schwarzenegger. I mean, what's the matter with you? I mean, forget it, and then your name, yeah, right. I mean, I can see it already, Schwarzen, whatever your name is, up there on the billboard. People are going to storm into the theater when they see that name. Look, no one will be able to pronounce this name. What are you talking about? I mean, look, Arnold, you're a nice guy. You've accomplished a lot in bodybuilding. Look, we want to help you. Why don't you stay in bodybuilding and open up a gymnasium or a health food store or something like that? And we get the little pit parts. Maybe you can play a bouncer. Yeah, that would be perfect with that body of yours, yes. A bouncer, or maybe a wrestler. Oh, I have a good idea. A Nazi officer. Yeah, with your accent. Oh, I know my friends over at Hogan's Heroes. They could get you in there and get you a part right away. Don't worry about it. So, of course, I didn't buy in. I said to myself, these guys are crazy. Negative. I'm going to do exactly what I did in bodybuilding. I worked out and worked on it 5-6 hours a day. I'm going to do the same in acting, and I'm going to prove them wrong. So I started taking acting classes, I took English classes, speech classes, dialogue classes, and accent removal classes. I ran around all day long saying, a fine wine grows on a vine. See, because the Germans, they have a difficult time with the B and the W and with the F, right? They get it all confused because we do it differently. So I had to practice, and also the zinc is made out of zinc. The zinc is made out of zinc. So those are the kind of things I said all day long. I was practicing and practicing to get, and I know I should have fired the accent removal guy because I still have an accent. But I mean, the bottom line was, it helped. And then all of a sudden things started happening. I started getting little parts in TV, and then bigger ones, and all of a sudden I got a phone call from Lucille Ball to be in her show, her 2-hour show, Happy Anniversary and Goodbye with Art Carney. And there I had a 6-minute scene as a masseur, an Italian masseur I played. It was like fantastic. I mean, no one knows the difference between an Italian accent and German accent. So first I played the Italian truck driver that became a masseur, and then he was massaging Lucille Ball. But that led then to a guest starring role in Streets of San Francisco with Carl Malden and Michael Douglas. And that led then to doing Pumping Iron, the documentary on bodybuilding, and then Stay Hungry, and then eventually landed the big role in Conan the Barbarian. And you know what was so interesting about that? That when we were finished with Conan the Barbarian, the director John Milius said to the press, if we wouldn't have had Schwarzenegger with his muscles, we would have had to build one. But think about that, all of a sudden the thing that was such a big obstacle became an asset. And the same thing was also in Terminator. I remember Jim Cameron said, "I'll be back," became one of the most famous lines in the movie history because of Arnold's crazy accent, because Arnold sounds like a machine. And think about that. All of a sudden, all of the things that the naysayers said would be a liability became an asset. I turned the whole thing around, the same with the name. I mean, all of a sudden the name was fantastic. They said, if it is difficult to remember a name, then it will be also very difficult to forget the name. It became hip. And I kept my name Schwarzenegger, even though in the beginning they always said you got to change your name. So it just shows to you how important it is, not to pay any attention to naysayers. The same was in my political career. Can you imagine you're an actor, you just finished promoting Terminator 3 and you say, I'm going to jump into the race and I'm going to run for governor? Of course everyone said immediately, it can't be done, no way, it's impossible. And again, I didn't listen, and the rest of it is history. So if I would have listened to the naysayers, my career would have been over, I can guarantee you, when I was 15 years old already, and I would still be yodeling in the Austrian Alps. I wouldn't be standing here in front of you today. I'm standing here in front of you because I paid no attention to those that said you can't, or no, or it's impossible. So ignore the naysayers. My fourth rule is work your ass off. Nobody ever stumbled upon success by accident. I mean, except maybe the guy who found gold in California. But never think that you can be that guy, okay? I mean, I never wanted to fail because I didn't work hard enough. And I don't think you want to fail either because you didn't work hard enough. I mean, imagine if I would have gone to a competition and someone would have said, you lost this competition because you're not defined enough or you're not big enough because you didn't work hard enough. I didn't want ever to hear that. I mean, I didn't mind losing, which I did 3 times in my life. I lost bodybuilding competitions 3 times, but in all 3 cases, the guys were just better. I was too young, I wasn't ready yet, but a year later I came back and I beat them. So I mean, but it was always justifiable, but it was not because I didn't work hard enough. So it is very important that you work hard enough. That is very, very important here. Muhammad Ali is one of the great heroes, one of my friends. He said in the 70s when he was asked, how many sit-ups do you do? He said, I only start counting when it starts burning. You see, that's what makes someone a champion. That's what makes someone great. That you really work your butt off. And that doesn't matter if it is in boxing or if it is in anything else. No pain, no gain. The bottom line is none of my rules will help you unless you work hard. I mean, it drives me absolutely insane when people say they don't have enough time to go and read a book. Or they don't have enough time, or they're tired because they're working so hard to go and work out. Or they don't have enough time to improve themselves, or to improve their business, or to work on themselves and to make themselves grow in one way or the other. They don't have enough time because they're working so hard and they're tired because they're working so hard. That's a bunch of nonsense. What are we talking about here? The day is 24 hours. You sleep 6 hours, then you have 18 hours left. Now I know there's some of you out there saying to themselves, oh, I sleep 8 hours. Well, just sleep faster. Okay, so make it very simple because you can do it in 6 hours. I tell you, when I came to America, I was working on construction. I was managing a bricklaying business, and at the same time I was working out 5 hours, sometimes 6 hours a day. And then I was going to school and I was studying, and I was going to acting class from 8 o'clock at night to 12 o'clock at midnight. I was doing all of those things. And it was because the day had 24 hours and I never wanted to waste 1 single hour. All of this is possible. I always tell people, there's plenty of time to do all of those things. You've got to go and grow all the time as a person. I believe what Ted Turner said. Ted Turner is one of the great entrepreneurs that created CNN and so on. He said, early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and advertise. That is a big belief that I have, because I remember you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pockets. You must work your ass off. It's that simple. So that is my fourth rule. And the fifth rule is, don't just take, give something back. Leave your mark on the world. I believe that we all have an obligation to do something for our community, something for our state, something for our country. We must serve a cause that is greater than ourselves. Because we all know that in the end we are judged not by how much we make, but by how much we give. Ever since America greeted me with open arms, I felt this tremendous responsibility and obligation to give something back to America. Today I know that everything that I've achieved is because of America. I achieved it because America gave me everything, from my bodybuilding career, to my show business career, to my political career, to the money that I've made, my great family that I have. That everything is because of America. This is why I feel that I should give something back. Now I know that America did not become that way, the land of opportunity, by itself. No, throughout history people worked tirelessly. People fought, people died to make this the land of freedom and opportunity, the land of liberty. So now it is our turn to go and give something back, because America does not stay number one by itself, just like it didn't become number one by itself. No, people have to work very hard to do that. And it doesn't really matter what country you come from. If you're Australian, if you're Chinese, if you're Italian, if you're German, it doesn't make any difference. We all owe it to our country to give something back, no matter what country you're from. I remember the words of my father-in-law, Sergeant Schreiber, who started the Peace Corps, the Job Corps, legal aid to the poor, under the Kennedy administration and Johnson administration. He was one of the great public servants and one of my heroes always. And he always inspired me to become a public servant. But he said at a commencement speech at Yale University, he said to the students, tear down that mirror. Tear down that mirror that makes you always look at yourself. And you will be able to look beyond that mirror, and you will see the millions and millions of people that need your help. And I saw those millions and millions of people. And this is why I took every opportunity that I could to reach out and to help. If it was in Special Olympics to become the international coach of Special Olympics, or if it was joining the Simon Wiesenthal Center to fight prejudice, or if it is to serve as a chairman of the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports and travel through all 50 states to promote health and fitness for our youngsters, or to start after-school programs for our most vulnerable children, to make them be able to say no to drugs, no to gangs, and no to violence, and to say yes to education and yes to life. I mean, to me, every single time I reached out, it felt so good of giving back. Nothing made me happier. I would rather go and play chess with an 8-year-old inner city kid in an after-school program, or with a Special Olympian play golf, than go down another red carpet of a movie premiere. Eventually, the joy of giving back became so high for me, and it became so special, that feeling, that gratification, that I decided to walk away from show business, to walk away from my movies, to become a public servant full-time. After finishing promoting Terminator 3, I ran as governor in the state of California, and I won. And I can tell you something, that even though everyone advised me not to do it, they said, Arnold, are you crazy? You're going to lose $20, $30 million a movie twice a year, and then go and work for $178,000 that they give you as governor? Are you out of your mind? Think about how many hundreds of millions of dollars you're going to lose over the period of 7 years. And I said, I don't care, because all of the money that I've made so far and the opportunity to run is because of America. So I'm ready to give that back. I don't think about myself. And I tell you, those 7 years were the most exciting, the most rewarding, and the most gratifying years of my life. To work all day long and to solve problems and to serve the people. I mean, it was absolute heaven. It was the best job I've ever had. And even though after I was finished with my 2 terms, I was finished as the governor, with the position governor, but my desire to serve the people was not finished. This is why I continued after that with my after-school programs. I continued as the coach for Special Olympics. I continued promoting health and fitness and staying on my fitness crusade. I even started the Schwarzenegger Institute at the University of Southern California to continue to inspire students and leaders around the world to find solutions to very complicated issues and to give back and to make the world a better place. And this is why I continue, and now I am on this environmental crusade. And so I get my inspirations, of course, from a lot of my heroes. And I mentioned two of them, Muhammad Ali and Sergeant Shriver. But I have to mention the others also. Mikhail Gorbachev, Ronald Reagan, Nelson Mandela. Great leaders like Mother Teresa, Chancellor Kohl, and Churchill, and the list goes on and on. I mean, just think about this one man here, President Gorbachev. Every time that I meet this man, I'm in awe. Because he grew up under communism and rose from the bottom of the ranks straight up to the top. And then he became president of the Soviet Union. And he was one of the most powerful men in the world. And all of a sudden, when he was on the top, he realized that the system was broken. That communism didn't work. Now think about it, you're in the top position. You're president of the Soviet Union and you're the head of the party, of the Communist Party, and you find out that communism doesn't work. What do? I guarantee you most of them will just continue on with the status quo. But he didn't. He started dismantling communism. Think about the guts, the courage that it takes to do that. He started dismantling communism slowly. I mean, there was Gorbachev completely transforming his country with glasnost by giving his people freedom for the first time, and with perestroika by reforming Russia's economy. He didn't wait for the next president. He didn't complain about anything. He just did it. He said, if not me, who? And if not now, when? You see what I'm saying? All of us need to embrace that kind of a spirit. All of us can create change, whether it is in our neighborhoods, or in our state, in our schools, on a small level or on a big level. Even if you go and just teach a kid how to read, or how to do math, is already reaching out and helping somebody. Don't just work on me. Work also on we. Me and we. To lead a truly full life, you must give back. You must leave the world a better place than we found it. This is absolutely crucial that we think about that. So ladies and gentlemen, these are my rules. And I can guarantee you, if you follow all of them, you will have many victories to celebrate. And you will leave your mark. And you will have a legacy that you can be proud of. Remember the rules again. Have a vision. Think big. Ignore the naysayers. Work your ass off. And give back and change the world. Because if not us, who? If not now, when? Thank you very much. Thank you.